What's up, Tube? Welcome back to Guido's Chop Shop, the second best gel blaster channel on the tubes. And tonight I have one of the most hyped GBBR blasters on the desk in front of me, and I'm a bit excited. I gotta say, because there has been quite a lot of hype around this blaster, and I'm keen to see if it actually lives up to the hype or if it's going to end up in the bin. Not literally, of course. You know, I do a little trolling. I say some jokes, and previously I put the Poseidon pistol, the Orion, in the bin, and Roland from RPM was none too happy about that. He was a little bit salty. I thought it was a joke, but he clearly didn't get the funny side of it, and he made sure that I would not get one of these RPM MWS blasters. But here we are with an RPM MWS blaster to review. So let's continue checking this bad boy out. The quality of the receiver from just appearances looks amazing. Like the fit and finish of these upper and lower, very minimal gap, everything looks very nice quality, very high quality. The stock, the grip, everything appears really nice, except for that dust cap, which randomly just doesn't, that dust cover doesn't want to stay closed. But I mean, that's, oh, there we go, that's kind of a given on a lot of blasters, that little bad boy popping open. Let's have a look at all the little details. I'll get my camera down and I'll close up for you. We can check out this stock. Actually, that's really tight. Is that just me? Oh, that is tight to move. Oh man, there we go. And in the back, I don't know what this is for. Probably for a little oil kit or something. You pop in here, a little spot in there. If it was an AEG, that might be a battery, but it's not. It's all gas powered, this one. Let's check out some of the Deets close up. Check out the Deets. This is a BCM version, so it's got all the little BCM markings and everything. See, I'll flip it over. On the other side, you can see the selector and then all the other, you can see the BCM markings. And we got the nice P-mag, which is similar, if not the same, at least on visual appearance, as the one I had in the Guns Modify MWS, which in theory, I mean, it should be a similar platform to this, given that they are both the MWS, although RPM have obviously put their little touches internally and potentially inside this mag as well. But the mag, for all intents and purposes, looks identical to what I had in my Guns Modify. Let's see. Yeah, so you pop that open like that, click the follower down, and then you can load your gels in there. I will actually grab some gels to show you. So you can use a speed loader. I like to just get enough gap there that I can maybe one more. No, maybe not. Alright, that's pretty full. Alright, and then I hold my fingers over the mag lips and release that spring there. If you just release the spring without kind of holding, you can shoot some gels out of the lips sometimes, so keep that in mind. For those who don't know, Orbis, gels, Orbis, they're a super absorbent polymer that squashes and crushes on impact. It's fairly harmless. They're said to be biodegradable. So that's what an Orbi is. That's what this thing propels. Don't ban me, YouTube. Alright, let's continue on. Now that I've got the mag loaded up, I might as well fire some rounds for you. So, one of the beauties of a gas-powered blaster is that realism, that cycling of the bolt and that having to pull the charging handle to load it up. Very nice, great feeling. Let me just pop off a few rounds for you. Alright, RPM, MWS Chrono check. Oh, there's some nice numbers. I say that as I get a broken gel, that's alright. Nice, locked back. Awesome. Alright, so minimum 19, we can probably chalk that up to a barrel break or a gel fragment bouncing back through the chrono, let's ignore that. Average of 270, max of 366, so 270s, 280s, we're getting a good, fairly good consistent 270 reading, and yeah, not too bad. Look at that. And the bolt locks open. Press the release on the other side and it snaps back closed again. We did feed all the gels from our magazine, which one of the issues that I've had with this particular style of magazine, with the GM and with this blaster, is that sometimes the gels don't quite nicely slide up in that slot, and so you either have to have gels that are a little bit moist or a little bit of silicone lubricant or something. Not too much, obviously, you don't want to attract dirt or anything, but it does help to have that a little bit slippery so that your gels can feed. They're not like the polymer Bravos where they just sort of get pushed up by the spring. They do have a tendency to grab on things that are dry, gels do, and when you're converting something from Bravo to gel, that's one of the things that often gets overlooked, so keep that in mind. Another wonderful thing about GBBR and the realism is that the takedown is so nice, like everything just sort of comes apart, very similar to the real steel item. You can take your upper and your lower off, remove your bolt, the takedown is very similar to that of a real steel. Very cool. You can't get better realism than a GBBR. Now this is interesting. I don't know if this is the bolt actually has a number of little ball bearings or rollers, like bearing rollers that that I guess when it runs back into the buffer tube, it'll be able to roll on these rollers. So that's nice and smooth. I don't know if the GM has them. Let me have a look. Alright, fortunately I have a GM bolt right here with me and I can compare it. So the GM bolt does have one roller here and one roller here, but it doesn't have the 3 rollers that the RPM one does. Let's zoom in a bit on this. So this is the GM one, and you can actually see it's got one roller here, but you can also see that there's a little bit of, this one's had a bit of use, so there's a little bit of wear in it. But I guess the idea here is that these rollers will roll inside the buffer tube and prevent that from wearing out. It's interesting. It's nice. Seems like there's a adjustment screw here as well, which is different from the GM. Don't actually know what the benefit of having that is. I see on the GM one here, we have a small section here that appears to be hardened, and that's where the bolt catches on. And I know on some of the other brands of GBBR this bit wears out, and so you can replace that bit. I noticed that the RPM one does not have that removable section, which could be for a number of reasons, but it could be that maybe the metal that this is already hardened, perhaps. I don't know. It's interesting to know, but it's definitely a different. There's definitely a different design in the bolt. That's for sure. There's a lot of pieces which look like they could be the same or interchangeable, but there is differences between them. The nozzle return spring on the RPM feels a lot softer. But they're slightly different, but very similar. Interesting. It's very interesting. I know they're basically the same ecosystem, so in theory you should be able to interchange parts, but that might not necessarily be the case. Alright, let's take a look now at the buffer rod and the buffer tube spring. Now that is a pretty hefty boy, especially compared to the GM version. What does this unscrew for? This unscrews. Alright, so there's there's a little urethane buffer in there. Right. Okay, interesting. So one thing is for certain, it is a much heftier boy than the GM version, well, at least the one that came standard in my GM, which is just a plastic, like the weight difference and the feel is you know far superior than what I got in my GM MWS. So that was that's certainly a much nicer piece. Alright, let's pop this back in. Oh, there's a like a spacer here as well, which I guess stops you from sticking quarters in there. Alright, we'll pop this all back in and we'll take a look at the trigger group next. That is a very smooth action. Jokes aside. Alright, I will start by removing the grip, which looks like an Allen key. I'm going to go with 4mm. Alright, grip removed. Now there is a small Allen screw down in there as well, and then the selector and the pin. Get this one out, and pop that pin. Now I'm pretty sure I do actually need to remove this mag catch. It's just a matter of awkwardly spinning it out over the top of that bolt release to the point where you get it enough that you can then unscrew this side and then drop it out. Okay, now what do we got? That's not a real pin, and we've got the selector. So we just got to wiggle the selector out. Possibly should have done that first. There we go. So I've pulled the trigger group out. It looks very similar to the GM trigger group. In fact, here's the GM bolt catch, and they look almost identical. I mean, I'd seen some photos of a different style from RPM available, so maybe that's an optional extra, but one thing is for sure, the RPM version is not magnetic, which leads me to believe that it's made of stainless, and this entire trigger group appears to be made of stainless. In fact, it says it here, Western Manufacturing stainless steel. So I can see the machining marks on all of these pieces. There's some nice brass looking pieces. I don't know if that is actually brass. It's not magnetic regardless, but it's definitely got a nice sort of brass finish, and I can tell it's been CNC'd along with most of the other pieces in this trigger group. There's a lot of CNC'd stainless steel pieces, which looks very nice. It looks like a very nice high quality trigger group. Yeah, pretty impressed with that. I'm not going to pull every single little piece out of this and and compare it to the GM, I promise, but given that it is the closest thing to this that I've seen, I feel like it's probably the best comparison. For all intents and purposes, this does appear to have a higher quality trigger group than the GM. Alright, let's move on. Let's look at the barrel. Alright, I'm just going to take this muzzle brake off. I'm not going to strip down the entire handguard, but I just want to show you this. This is a Poseidon barrel with the built-in hop-up. I'm just going to see if I can get a good shot straight down the barrel so you can see how that works. Alright, take a look at that. Straight down the muzzle there, you can see there is a built-in hop adjustable with a grub screw right there, built into the barrel. That is quite a nice feature. That's cool. Now, being that I've got this on a bench here and I haven't really done any long range shots, it is hard for me to determine how good the built-in hop-up Poseidon barrel. I believe this is a V2 version of the Poseidon hop-up barrel, but I can't really test it, but I can tell you, at least on a visual inspection, the ramp and the way the ramp is grooved in there is not too dissimilar to a number of hop-ups that I've used in the past that have performed fairly well. So, I mean, take that for what it is. I haven't actually tested it on a long range shot to determine how well that hop-up works, but it is there, so that's a thing. Alright, as I'm reassembling this MWS, I just wanted to take the time to compare the trigger group between the RPM MWS and the GM MWS because I can. It's noticeable. I don't know if it is noticeable on camera, but it is noticeable to the eye, the quality difference. It does appear that the RPM version has a much nicer quality to the CNC components. You can see the sear and everything down here just looks nicer. This looks more like some sort of casting. In fact, it is. These are, I think, most of these components here are cast. Don't pay attention to this because that is an aftermarket part. The stock one is that. So yeah, you can see even the bolt release, you can see is some sort of casting, whereas this looks even like the bolt release is even CNC. It appears that way. I could be wrong. It just looks like it's got machining marks in it. Everything looks quite nice, especially some of these pieces that have got the brass sort of finish on it. They all look quite nice. Now, with so many similar parts, some of which being almost identical, but perhaps a higher quality material or higher quality manufacturing process, you would kind of expect that the parts would almost be interchangeable. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. So, if I were to take the upper in its entirety on the RPM and fit it into the MWS, you would almost expect it to be a straight swap. But it isn't. I actually can't even get the upper on. What's it failing on? Yeah, so obviously there's some slight differences in components, enough that it doesn't work. I'm sure there's going to be bits and pieces that are compatible. Yeah, I can't even get the upper on, and I'm not going to force it because I don't know. But incidentally, if I do get the upper from the GM, does fit on. Fits on the bolt cycles, locks, and fires. So I don't know exactly what components are compatible and what aren't, but it seems that there's some slight differences in tolerances between the RPM MWS and the GM MWS. So yeah, I just found that's quite interesting. I'm not sure what it is that is actually the difference, but there's obviously something that's just ever so slightly different in the bolt tolerance. It's super awkward trying to do this from behind a tripod, but yeah. So I'm sure there's going to be some parts that are interchangeable and some that aren't, given that the ecosystems are the same. They're coming from the Tokyo Marui ecosystem, so they should in theory be very similar, if not the same, but yeah, it seems that there's a couple of little minor differences that just don't interact between the two systems. When I first heard about this and when I got my hands on this GBBR, I am not going to lie, I was expecting to be underwhelmed. There's been in the past where blasters have been hyped up and then I've received them and I'm going, well, that's kind of underwhelming. And I am not underwhelmed. I am pleasantly surprised of what I've seen here tonight. The quality that I've seen is actually really good. I've got not too many gripes about this blaster. Probably if I had one gripe, it would be the magazine feeding mechanism. Probably isn't perfect, but I mean, other than that, it's definitely a quality blaster. I'm impressed with the built-in hop up, and I'm impressed by the CNC trigger group. Everything seems really quite nice. I don't know why it doesn't seem to be compatible with another blaster of the same ecosystem. There's obviously some slight manufacturing differences there, but I guess, I mean, that's not really a big deal because you're probably not going to be swapping the uppers from your GM and your RPM anyway, but yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by this blaster. I gotta say, it does live up to the hype. It's certainly a nice blaster. Alright, well, that's it from me. And don't forget, you can hit me up on Facebook to buy a patch, or you can buy me a coffee down in the link below. Shout outs to Adam Hoy for buying me a coffee. And thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.